So I think this is a subject about which I can speak with some degree of knowledge. The pub does matter, and every pub's a parliament is a phrase that I came up with 25 years ago. Amazing how in a pub you can have a firm opinion, and someone says, well, hang on a second, if you looked at it like this, and you might change your view by 180 degrees. What is happening to our pubs, what is happening to our hospitality sector is little short of a disaster. They're on the edge of falling off a cliff. It's serious. It's very, very serious. And it isn't just the Reeves budgets. Of course, this does go back to swingeing increases in beer duty that happened especially in Jeremy Hunt's time. Yes, there are cultural changes. Yes, there are fewer young people drinking alcohol regularly. But they're drinking other brands. They're drinking low alcohol. They're drinking zero alcohol. And there is little doubt that certainly in small town, small village Britain, when pubs close, it is a social disaster for the community. So we've tried here to put forward some quite sensible proposals. If you just think about it, VAT going down to 10%, allied to a 10% cut in beer duty, would be 44p of a pint of beer before you even begin. Average price probably of a pint of beer at the moment around about £4.80. But actually we go further with this. With changes to regulation, with the gradual phasing out of business rates, I would think within 2 to 3 years these measures would take £1 off every pint, which does at least begin to bring back some degree of competitiveness against the supermarkets. But the other killer pubs, of course, given that many are pretty drafty old buildings, is energy bills. Energy bills have closed as many pubs in the last 5 years as any other factor. And the net zero lunacy that we were taken down by the Conservatives and now being followed by a level of fanaticism, I think is the way I can possibly describe Miliband's feelings towards the subject, is something else that a reform government, by getting rid of all of the artificial subsidies, would yet further help our pubs and indeed our broader hospitality sector. The national insurance increases, we're now told that the Chancellor, despite her 10 years as a very senior economist at the Bank of England, didn't understand what the knock-on effects would be. And certainly bringing down the national insurance level to £5,000 a year has put paid to tens of thousands of young people getting those part-time jobs they want when they're students at university or younger than that. So this is a constructive, costed plan. Yes, it means getting rid of the proposed legislation from a Labour government on the two-child cap. It is reducing the benefits bill in favour of encouraging private enterprise and jobs and wealth creation. And that, I think, is perhaps a snapshot of what you'll see more broadly in terms of economic policy coming out of reform over the course of the next months and years. The public sector, the welfare bill, cannot go on rising unless we start to create more wealth. This plan already has been welcomed by some quite senior figures in the pub. And don't forget the brewing industry. Dozens of small breweries closed around the United Kingdom last year. And if we can keep more pubs open, it will be a social good for the United Kingdom. Now, I've got a list of questions here. I suspect that pubs won't be the only item on the agenda today. I could be wrong, of course.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Let's start with Ben Wright from the BBC.
Thank you.
Is there a microphone? There is.
Sorry, Fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Farage. Yes, on the story of the day, Lord Mandelson, government say that they want to introduce legislation to strip him of his title, to remove him from the Lords. What do you think about that? Will reforms support it? And moves more broadly to remove miscreant peers from the House of Lords? And secondly, why should taxpayers subsidise failing pubs because people are drinking less?
Well, it wouldn't be taxpayers subsidising it directly, would it? I mean, reducing taxation is not a subsidy. Tax is a tax. What we're doing is reducing the welfare bill in order to create private enterprise, jobs, wealth creation, people paying more tax, let alone the social benefits from it. As I understand it, the last time that titles were removed by Act of Parliament was around about the time of the First World War, when there were some supporting the other side. You know, to me, getting rid of his title as Lord and one or two other miscreant peers, fine. But it's not the issue of the day. It absolutely is not the issue of the day. The issue of the day is that not only did this man breach cabinet confidentiality, but he leaked highly market-sensitive information. Let me tell you, when I was in the European Parliament and I was talking about the bond spreads, the width of bond spreads between Greece, Italy and Germany, when those bailouts happened, there was a massive, immediate market shift. I watched it. It was huge. Anybody who had that information, that had access to money and funds of the kind that Epstein did, well, if he made tens of millions out of it, he was lax. Because there was a chance to make hundreds of millions out of that trade. So quick was the shift in the bond spreads. That, it seems to me, must be bordering on criminal. There is no direct insider trading law for bonds in quite the same way that there is for stocks, and that's been the case since 1981, the Insider Trading Act. But it is highly sensitive market information. It is government secrets. I also wonder whether, in emails to Epstein, he talked about the security apparatus that exists underneath number 10 and at the heart of Whitehall. That is information that is of national security importance. And so I think there is reason to ask the question whether Mandelson has not broken the Official Secrets Act. And I'd like to know whether Lord Hermer will be happy and satisfied for a prosecution to proceed on that basis. I think it's that serious. So, fine, talk about removing the title, but that really is, I think, a very small part of something that is much bigger, much more serious, and I'm not even sure that we know the full story yet. By the way, my name was mentioned 37 times in the files, but just to repeat, I never met Epstein and I didn't go to the island. Okay, let's go on to Catherine Forster, GB News.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. On Mandelson, again, the Prime Minister says that he has let his country down. How would you describe all of the behaviour that he's taken part in that we now know of? And the actions that the Prime Minister is now taking, are they going to be sufficient for getting him and number 10 out of trouble on this?
No, I don't think they are. I mean, look, the warnings were there, weren't they? You know, the warnings were there. We go back to the mortgage. We go back to the Hinduja passport application. We go back at a time when he was trade minister and when the only part of the world that charged tariffs on base metals were the European Union with its 7% import tax on aluminium coming, in this case, out of Russia. And there was Deripaska's yacht shortly before the tariff change. I mean, how many more warnings? How many more warnings did the Prime Minister or indeed Morgan McSweeney need? They have made a grave, grave error of judgment despite repeated warnings. And, you know, this all comes at a time when you've got a Labour MP who's been sentenced to another 4 years in prison by a foreign court, a Labour MP arrested again and charged on some incredibly serious crimes. And, yeah, you know, I mean, in politics you will always get the odd bad apple in a political party, but it would appear that in the case right now of this Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff, their errors of judgment, partly their errors of judgment, have led now to case after case after case. Difficult for somebody who was already the most unpopular Prime Minister in living memory. This deals yet a further blow. And so I still stick to the view that after May the 7th, when you see in Wales, for example, Labour that's dominated the place, going right back to Keir's time, very difficult for me to think that Starmer will survive the summer if he even gets through to May the 7th.